we're going to stand here awkwardly and share this mic. Because there's only one. So, good morning, everyone. Is everyone awake? Not. So anyway, that's us. There's some speaker slides. Am I going backwards or forwards? Here we go. Okay, so my name's Cole, and this is my wife, Jencey. We're the creators of Sweet Teeth Hotel. We're super excited to be here, and it's our first Creative Mornings. So thank you so much to everyone for having us. Poppy, that was insane. That was awesome. Another round of applause for her. That was incredible. So yeah, we're here to talk about this word. And really what it means to us and how we apply it. Now I'm going to notice every time I say the word experience. Yeah, so, no, it's okay. Thank you. But really, I mean, we'll get back to that later. But just before we start, we'll give a little bit of background on each one of us. I'm going to toss it over to Jencey.
Hi, I'm Jencey Keeton. Great to meet everybody. If I haven't met you, come say hi. We don't bite. We're real chill. So I think one of the biggest things when we think about experience and career is a lot of where you are now is where you came from. And even for me, I'm 36, Cole's 35, and I feel like we've just been in this for a minute. We've been doing a lot of things for a long time. And some of those things really help shape the world that you live in, even though, you know, when we think about Surreal, it's kind of like time is relevant. Everything we're doing, we're actually doing right now. There's no past, there's no future, but you have a past. So in a nutshell, I was a full-time musician. I have a live entertainment background. This is a picture of us, my old bandmates, standing naked in their Chofsky house, where we shot a video and we let people come in and write on our bodies, which was pretty surreal, standing there for 45 minutes naked, letting people write on you. I worked at the AT&T Performing Arts Center in Granada Theater. Love live music, music is also kind of a surreal experience. From live entertainment, I went to Fossil and I ran digital brand marketing there. I was there when Instagram was booming, so I always say I came up through like the hot hellfire of social media when Snapchat started. We went from 480 Instagram followers to over 800,000. And so that was a really interesting journey. I worked with a lot of other pop-ups in New York, in LA, and so this wasn't the first pop-up I've done. I've been doing this for a while. And then, like any creative, then I went into commercial real estate. So, when I say that, the company that I was working for, Trademark, has a development model called Conscious Place, and it's about giving back to the community and talking to the community and installing public art. Cass King's actually here, who works on public art on the properties along with some of the marketing team. And so it really gave me the opportunity to see how people were building places in the city and working with artists and creating creative communities.
Just a little bit about my background. My entire background is in design. Art director with a background in fashion and luxury. I'm also a musician now. Wasn't in the past. I'm just like any creative, like Jencey. I'm now in architecture. I left my entire career of branding and advertising, and now I work at an architecture firm. And I'm a creative director there. So without talking too much about me, I'm going to go on to the next one. And go back to Surreal. And I really like what this means. So the actual definition of it is having the qualities of surrealism or bizarre. And really what that means to us is dreams looking and feeling more like reality. And one of the things that we practice is the art of attraction, or the law of attraction, sorry. And really just constantly thinking about whatever project that we're working on, and thinking about it in a way, it's kind of hard to train your brain to do this, but almost like you're remembering it, like a memory, as if it's already happened. But we have a lot of these projects, and people are always asking us, like, how many projects are y'all going to do? Like, when is it going to end? I'm like, well, we don't have any kids, and these are kind of our kids. So, but another question is, like, what is your secret sauce? And we have nothing to hide. Our secret sauce is kind of this formula. I'm one slide ahead of myself. What is really surreal? Let me back up, and before we get to the secret sauce and how it's made, what was surreal and what kind of started all this was our marriage. Like meeting each other, it was just kind of like, it just happened. We dated for 6 months and we were engaged for a month and we got married. And like all of our friends were like, "Are you guys pregnant?" We'll see. Yeah. So really, it was surreal to find someone that is almost like your polar opposite, and you have nothing in common except you like art, and that's it. And what's been really odd is like watching ourselves become more and more like each other, and sometimes in a really weird way. Like we'll go to like a show or a restaurant or something like that, and be like, "Are you guys brother and sister?" Or like, "No." Moving on past that, that was kind of like what started this whole journey. So, kind of what we were saying a second ago, the formula, and it's really simple. And anyone has this formula, which is like one of her passions and one of my passions, and we just put it together, and it makes our project.
This is true for anybody that you work with. It's really hard to work by yourself sometimes, so finding a creative partner and someone that can balance you out to really helps create this surreal experience and help you achieve your dreams. See?
This is normal, I normally hold one. So yeah, it's really just finding something that she loves and something I love, and that was the first thing we did after we got married. She was a full-time musician, she quit. And she felt like, I don't want to make music anymore. And the label that she was on, she fulfilled all obligations, and she was on it for 7 years, and she was like, I just don't really want to make music anymore. So 6 months into being married, she was like, I need to make music. So I was like, you know, she's a singer, she's a songwriter. She was like, what do you do? And I was like, well, I used to play drums, so now I'm writing beats. And that is where our first project came from, which is our band. And we called it French 75. It's the worst name for SEO searches ever. It's like one of the oldest cocktails. But when Jencey was recording with her old band,
we're making French 75s in the studio. So if you haven't had a French 75, it's champagne, a little bit of gin, sugar, lemon, and it will knock you on your A.
You can say this. It's pretty. This is the filtered version of our program. So yeah, we've still kept doing this, and we're still, you know, it's her outlet for music, it's my outlet for visual storytelling. But that was the first project. The second project, I'll touch on a little bit.
So a lot of these projects happen because I have this weird idea, or I have this dream, and I wake up, or I tell Cole like, hey, I have this idea, and he's always like, oh no, like, how much is this gonna cost me? Where are you gonna disappear to? What's gonna happen? And so a lot of times too, I think that, you know, when you have dreams and you have that partner that's gonna support you and be like, okay, I got you. This is really crazy. I don't know how it's gonna work, and we're gonna invest money in it. You know, that's when the magic really starts to happen. And working at Fossil, I was always going places, and I was like, oh, I saw this, or just when I was traveling, I was like, oh, I saw this. And I have been one of those people that I've lived in Dallas my whole life, and I've seen people move East Coast, West Coast, like, I'm gonna get out of here, I'm gonna go work somewhere else. And I was like, cool, I'm just gonna stay here, and I'm gonna live through everything that's happening in the city, and invest time here and grow our city, because that's really important to do. And so with this next business, I was like, hey, how about we start a mobile bar, but we don't actually sell alcohol, because that Dallas won't let you do that, which I kind of found out. And so we had been to Barcelona, and we saw this truck, and I was like, what if we get a Citroen H-Van, which, by the way, you can import cars that are newer than 25 years old. And so a lot of it is also just problem solving and having this idea, and then figuring out, how am I going to solve this problem? How am I going to import this car from the UK, which actually they went and got from Paris, and then we shipped it over. And a lot of it too is we just are going through projects and kind of finding out what sticks. So this is Truckee. We outfitted it as a bar, and you can rent it out for parties.
This is not a promo. So the next project we'll kind of touch on shortly. It's probably our smallest one. But Jencey, having a background in social and coming from Fossil and kind of like, lighting a fire under Fossil and watching that grow, she learned and taught herself all these tools, all these platforms that watches all these different algorithms on like what's trending, what's happening online, and where it is. So using these tools, we got to watch the internet and this really weird portal and watch things kind of spike all over the place. And if we saw a spike that really wasn't being reported, she would just straight up reach out to these people and be like, hey, I would love to talk to you, and I want to write this article about you. So we would reach out, she would reach out, and talk to these people, interview them before their spike grew to some of them became viral hits. And once we wrote that article and supplied that metadata, when you search for those things, as they were going viral, this next project is what would come up for a little while. It was like the place where everyone was going if something was going viral at that moment. After it started to really, really, really trend, other people were writing about it, and you see all these other articles about it. But this one was called, and this is another name that Jencey came up with, it's called Social Yum Yum. So it's really about what's trending, design, all these different things. I get to design the site, and it was really just, that was my little piece of help that I provided. This was another one of Jencey's babies. But the next project, I'm going to let Jencey talk a lot more about, because this really is her baby.
Okay, so this is really what we're here to talk about, but I think it helps to kind of see all the background and see the journey of where we've come from. A lot of things like Social Yum Yum, Cole will tell everyone about. I'm super ADD, and I'm sure you guys have all taken actually I'm not ADD, but when you take your personality test, I'm the type of personality that I'll get really bored with things once I figure it out. I'm like, great, I figured that out, what's gonna happen next? And so a lot of times I'll start projects, and Cole's like, you never finish your projects. And I'm like, I actually finish them, and then I get tired of them, and then I go do something else. And so, if you want to go to the next slide, Sweet Tooth Hotel is something that was birthed out of where I was working currently in commercial real estate. And so, I'll kind of go back on the background of experiential. But what's happening right now in the retail space is traffic's going down, everyone's trying to rely on food to get people in. A lot of developers are working with artists to create moments on the properties, which is great for artists because all of a sudden all this real estate money is happening because people are investing. So there's a lot of murals happening, sculptures, and things like that. So every time I do this, I like to play a game. Don't worry, you don't have to talk to your neighbor or like touch anybody or anything, but you all have to stand up.
This is not part of what we rehearsed.
Yeah, this is what happens. Okay, so if I say something and you have heard of it or you have done it, go ahead and sit down. So I have heard of Sweet Tooth Hotel. Sit down. I have visited Sweet Tooth Hotel. Sit down. I have heard of an Instagram museum. Sit down. I have posted on Instagram this week. Sit down. Well, y'all don't count for that, because you have to like squat or something. Yeah. So the point is, whether you're using social for your personal life or your business, everybody's on social media. This trend of experiential really happened. I would say Refinery 29 for me was one of the biggest kind of mainstream experiences that happened, and it was 29 rooms in Brooklyn. This happened, I want to say, in 2012, and now they're taking 29 rooms all over the US. But when I was at Fossil, we were in one of the first 29 rooms, and it was in Brooklyn. And it was in the worst warehouse in Brooklyn. It was before Uber, so the taxi wouldn't even take us out there. We had to pay the taxi like an extra $100 to take us out to this pier in Brooklyn. But essentially what they did is they worked with artists and brands, and they had all of these different installations in rooms, and they let people explore. And it was also during the time when everybody on Instagram was trying to figure out, what is this platform going to be? Is this for photographers? Is this for me as my brand personally? If I have a brand, what am I going to do on Instagram? And it was one of the first ones I feel like that really went viral and exploded. So a lot of these started popping up. I think that, the predecessor to that was really a museum of ice cream that you guys have probably seen. And I think that they really set the bar, not just with experiential, but also with all of the licensing that they did out of that. And so all of a sudden there is this we'll go back to surreal thing happening. And at Fossil I was working with a lot of influencers. And so the other thing that happens is your physical world and your tangible world doesn't necessarily match up with what's happening on your Instagram or what's happening on your social. And I think that's something that you'll hear everybody talk about. And we went to a design conference where one of the artists said, don't compare your behind the scenes to everybody else's highlight reel. And that's something really important to remember, even with starting a business. Like, there's a lot of hustle, there's a lot of things happening, and people are really curating, what they're showing. So with Sweet Tooth Hotel, everyone always says, well, how did this start? Like, how did this happen? Like, where'd you get the money? There's just a lot of practical things that people, always ask. And so really it was birthed because I was trying to get experiential to come to Dallas, and I kept getting shut down. All the other experiences were like, no, I'm not gonna go to Dallas, like why would I go to Texas? Yeah, I'll go there if you pay me like $500,000. I was like, that's not gonna happen. And so I told Cole, I was like, we have so many amazing artists in Dallas, why don't we just, do this ourselves and we'll present what Dallas really has to offer. We have never said that we're an Instagram museum, we're an art installation, and we work with artists and we curate what they do in a way where each install has a theme. And I was lucky enough that I was working on Victory Park doing marketing, and the CEO of the company I was at, I was like, I have to go talk to him because I'm gonna do my side hustle, I need my boss to sign off. So I went and talked to him and I said, hey, I want to bring this art installation into Victory Park. And he was like, you have to do it. Like, yeah, you have to do that, just do it. And so I was like, okay, well, now I have to tell Cole and also figure out how we're gonna fund this. And so there's really a lot of great opportunities and resources for funding. We took out a small business loan to get everything started. And then having a live entertainment background, I put tickets on sale and crossed my fingers and ran Facebook ads and Instagram ads. I was like, I hope people see this and understand what it is. We had a group of artists that, when I originally approached them, I thought we were going to really curate a gift shop in the front, and we were going to be a place where we could also sell Dallas artwork as well, because I also felt like there was a little bit of a gap in the market for a place where artists could sell their work, and there wasn't a large commission being taken out of their sales, and there's really no overhead for them at all, because we're providing space and we're providing staff and all of that. So they actually said, Jencey, I don't want to put my art in the gift shop, I want to make an install. And I was like, duh, I don't know why we didn't think about it. So I wish that we would have had the process photos in here. I have another presentation that kind of shows like the craziness of us taking over the space and working with the city to put walls up and getting the right permits. And I think that to me was really surreal. It's like sitting in the city of Dallas in the office, and I had to handwrite a letter about how we were going to use our space, and then meet with someone and give them a handwritten letter so we could get our CO. And then we didn't get our CO, and I called them and I was like, I need my CO, I need it to open, and I'm like crying in the parking lot. And the woman's like, okay, let me check on it. And I hung up and I was like, we're never gonna open. Like, this is never gonna happen. And I'm sitting in the parking lot and I'm refreshing my email, and she emails me my CO. And so I think that, to me, it showed me Dallas is really investing in art. There's a lot of grants out there and a lot of ways to do this. So you can go to the next one. So these are some of the pictures of the installs. Chapter 1 was all based on candy, and so what a lot of people didn't know about that experience is that we fused all of the candy themes with our favorite directors. And so if you look at, let me see, we had one room, like the macaroon room, was originally based on Sofia Coppola and changed. Our ring pop room was our Nicholas Winding Refn room from Drive, if you guys are familiar. And so our first install, we were only going to open for 44 days, and we opened in May, and I lost control of it. It literally went viral, and as a marketing person, I always thought that viral was just this like made up thing. And I was like, yeah, viral. Or I have this conspiracy theory where I'm like, you guys remember that video, What Did the Fox Say? I was like, something bad was going down when that video was playing. Because I was like, why is that video everywhere? There's going to be a movie like 20 years from now. But anyway, so it went viral. Everybody was coming in, everybody was posting. We had TV come out to visit. We had everybody in media covering it. And to me, it really showed that Dallas has always been ready for this. It's not that we're ready now, we've always been ready for it. And it's people just going out on a limb and investing and creating something. And I think one of the coolest things about the first chapter is not just the fact that so many people showed up, but so many people showed up and created amazing content. And so all of a sudden, we weren't just a place for you to come take photos. And I personally think that anybody I talk to that looks at one of these and is like, they're just trying to take photos of themselves, they just want an Instagram picture. It's not the case at all. It really became a community, and it became a lot of people showing up and shooting music videos in the space, shooting their models in the space. We literally were letting people do anything, for better or for worse, and we welcome that. Yeah, there were a lot of naked people in our exhibit. I don't know why. We had to put a dress code in place. I never thought nudity was like so prevalent in our city, but it is. So that was a learning curve. So a lot of people ask, why is this successful? And I think there's some intangible things about what's happening with these spaces. And the analyst will give you the data, and so there's 3 things they'll say about these spaces. One is, with experience economy, when you have an experience with somebody, or you have an experience with a friend, even if it's a bad experience, it could be the worst experience ever, your brain will do this thing, and it'll trick you, and it will turn into a memory where it actually recorrects itself. And those memories that you're making with your friends and your loved ones, good or bad, are very important to you psychologically. The other thing too is creating content. So, we live in a world where it's fun to create content. I don't necessarily think it's our duty to have our self-brand or to show how we're cooler than other people. I just think we're all creative and we're looking for places to create content. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the third thing is FOMO. And so Cole always tells me Dallas is one of the #1 FOMO cities in the US. And I try not to pay attention to that because I think it will drive you mad. There's actually a trend coming out, I don't know if y'all have heard of JOMO, which is the joy of missing out, to kind of counterbalance that. And then we've also just been doing a lot of research on psychologically the effects of what happens when you go into an experience. And we have had senior citizen homes bring their patrons through. We've had autistic children bring their classes through for sensory experience. And so apart from taking photos, psychologically it helps you to be immersed in art, to be immersed in community, to have this experience. And so that's another layer that we really put into everything. If you come in, you are the most important person to everybody in that space. Because I always say, you might be walking in, you might not have been able to find parking, you might have broken up with somebody, or just had a bad day, or you're feeling fat when you woke up in the morning, or like whatever it is. And you should be able to come in and have the best time, and also be educated on all artists that are in the space as well. Uh-oh. You're higher breakfast. So that is another layer. One of the other layers that we have with Sweet Tooth Hotel is about education, and so it's really important to us. We had artists that we were already working with in Dallas, and that we collected personally, and then we just start meeting people all the time. So anybody I talk to, I'm like, what is your dream? What are you working on? What do you wish you could be doing? What is your craziest project ever that if you had a client that wouldn't shut you down all the time or cut your budget, that you could do those things? And so that's our mission with Sweet Tooth Hotel, is that we are a platform in Dallas where we can be an incubator, not just for established artists, but also meeting artists that are up and coming and new artists, and being that open space where people can come in. And our goal was always that we would have artists and we would create enough revenue off of the space that we could continually up and up and up and pay artists working wages, and so that there would be something, that there would be a project in Dallas people could work on. And I always say with Sweet Tooth Hotel that what we presented and what we will continue to present will always evolve. We decided we're keeping the name Sweet Tooth Hotel, and so when you walk into our new space, we're actually expanding it. And so we'll have a real hotel lobby, you're checking into a real hotel, and on our current space we'll have 2 hotel rooms, and those hotel rooms will act as independent gallery spaces. And so that will allow those artists with 2 large spaces to rotate workout every single year. And that's outside of our theme, and that really, to me, we're doing for this next one, and it has been very interesting to see the work that's going to be presented. We have Tremaine Townsend, who you all may know, does a lot of video work, photography, a lot of experience installations. And Jencey Rubiani, who's been one of our artists for the past 2 installs, is going to take over a room as well. And they're pretty opposite. Tremaine's working a lot with commentary on how you're being watched and the impacts of that. Jencey works in a lot of organic materials, resin, sandstones, crystals, a lot of color, and very light. So we're excited about that. Do you want to go back to the first slide? Yeah. So the first 2 chapters, so we had our first chapter, Sweet Tooth Hotel. The second chapter was called 1955. So if you guys have seen that, we actually went to outer space. And that was a big step for us, because I think when we opened, everybody was kind of like, oh, this is like a candy museum, and it's a museum of ice cream. And we were like, actually, we're an art install, and so we said we have to do something drastically different for our second install. And so with our second install, we went to outer space. With our third install, we just announced on Monday, it's called Discotheque. And it's a combination of music and technology. And so this is going to be in our new space that's expanded. A little bit about Discotheque, we're partnering with a company called Pixel Lab, and so it's all about new media installation. We're doing a lot of projection mapping. We actually have silent disco headphones that you put on when you come in, and all the audio is going to be synced up with the projections. It's also a commentary on... I need to find a good way. Okay, here, I'm going to practice. I'll practice a couple ways, you guys. So it's also a commentary on self-observation. This morning I was like, yeah, a lot of these are self-observation stations. But essentially it's you becoming an icon. I think, whether you love music or you don't, everybody kind of has that moment of singing really bad karaoke and feeling awesome, or being a professional musician and performing on stage. So this experience will allow you to step into the shoes and really become an icon of this pop star, who we haven't announced yet, but we're partnering with for all the music. And so I think it's not only something that you're going to experience, but it's also going to be a challenge to you as the visitor to see how far you can push yourself and what kind of situations you can put yourself in. And I'm really excited to see what content is going to come out of it and how people are going to interact with it. Should we tell them one install? Oh, okay. Oh, I'll have to talk about something else now. If you want to know, come talk to me after. So, one of the cool things that came out of working on Sweet Tooth Hotel is Dallas, I feel like, has a lot of artists that do experiential, but maybe from a company perspective, there wasn't one place to go to really work on have one person to go to for experiential. So Lights All Night actually approached us to do an install, and we brought some of our chapter 1, and then we worked with Pixel Lab to take over a 14,000 square foot room, which if you've been to our space is like 100 times larger than our space. So we projection mapped all of the walls. Well, we didn't. Pixel Lab projection mapped all of the walls, and then we created these canopies that hung in the top of the room. And then we made the swings that you saw, which were the hearts. And so this was our first test for discotheque, where we combined a lot of physical elements with the projection mapping in the space. And so this is something we're calling pop-outs, and we'll continue to do. And what's great is that even though we'll have an install that's opening in May, I'm hoping to meet a lot of artists to continue working with artists so that as we have these pop-outs, we have work ready for other artists as well that may not be working on our main install. So if you're a creator, definitely come talk to us or shoot an email. It's just my first name, Jencey, at sweettoothhotel.com, because we'd love to see what everyone's working on. What else you got? Okay, so for 2019, we'll show you guys a little bit of a recap of 1955. One interesting thing about these experiences is they are only open for a short period of time. So this was shot at U Film House. I think the other thing that's surreal for me is that we took a space that was 1,200 square feet and worked with artists to create these interactive experiences. This is Hatziel Flores, and he created a giant robot reminiscent of a 1950s movie poster that you could actually sit on. It was also really cool to see what the artists were creating that they had never made before. This is actually a steel frame sculpture that's bolted into the ground, and it holds up the other side of this diner table. This is Drigo. If you know him, we actually met him at Fort Works, and we had a show installed there. This is our spaceship. We call it the Rainbow Rocket. This was built by Bender and Jojo Chong. And so it actually had a panel you could go in and you could control all the lights in the floor with the buttons. Jeremy Biggers, really prominent Dallas artist. We had collected his work and met him, personally. He made this resin neon rope sign, and this was the first time he had made one of those signs. This is Rob Wilson's room, who's an illustrator. And what's interesting about Rob is that since he was a 2D illustrator, he hadn't had a space that went into 3D. This is Drigo again. And
There's music, you just can't hear it.
yeah, it's like put whatever song you want over this. So this is our new space. So our current space sits beside and is engulfed inside of our new space. And that's under construction right now, which has also been a surreal experience dealing with construction and building things. I have a background in digital marketing, so I've learned a lot of things. If anybody's building anything and wants any advice.